Hello, Gary.
Hello, Guy. So we're face to face.
We are face to face.
You haven't aged a bit.
Oh, thank you. Since
I mean, you look better with your Zoom filter, I guess. But...
yes, I didn't realise you actually had the rabbit ears in real life.
Right. So today's guest, we're very excited
We're
about.
very, very excited. This is someone we've been wanting to talk to for ages.
Yes, of course, and
as well as someone we know as well, which is always special.
And I mean, work with Elton John, Rolling Stones. I mean, who isn't there that he has?
Not that many people.
David Essex,
David
Rock
Essex,
On.
Absolutely iconic, a massive contribution to the British film industry as well.
Absolutely. Should we get him on?
Welcome to the Rockonteurs.
Thank you for having me. I feel very honoured, and it's lovely to see you both again.
Have you ever played with each other, you two?
I don't know if we have. There might have been something with Michael Kamen years ago.
Dear Michael,
Dear Michael, I know, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up in the conversation. You brought him up straight away. Yeah, you're a lovely, lovely, lovely man.
He was my neighbour. I lived 3 doors from, probably one of the most charismatic men to ever live.
Well, I was very, very privileged to be able to give him his first real big break on film, because I was working with Terry Gilliam at the time doing a film called Brazil, and I'd been playing for Terry a lot of Richard Strauss, which is heavy stuff, and as a sort of, they call them temp scores now, but it was, with Terry, he hates that expression, and I don't blame him, but it was just something for him to, and he loved Strauss, Ein Heldenleben, which is a huge piece of work. And at the end of the shoot, Terry always looked to me and said, well, who's going to write the music, Ray? And I said, well, I've got a young man that you haven't heard of, but I have. I've heard his music, and I think he's wonderful. So we pulled him in, and we sat him in the front of a private screening in Soho, and he watched one of the first cuts of Brazil. And at the end of it, his head didn't move. It was just his neck. He was just speechless. And he said, "You want me to write a score for this?" I said, "Yeah, Michael, because you're the man to do it." And he more than rose to the occasion.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
And it was such a joy to see that flowering, being able to, make. When Steven Spielberg first saw, again in a private screening, Brazil in Los Angeles, he came out of the screening and said to Terry, wonderful thing about Terry, he said, it's like I, Steven Spielberg, don't have an imagination. This is incredible, Terry. And he said, I want 2 names. I want your composer and your lighting cameraman. It was Roger Pratt, the lighting cameraman.
Right.
Wonderful. Unfortunately passed away now. He's a wonderful cameraman. And of course, Michael. And then after that, Michael never looked back.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
At Handmade Films, I got him to do also commissioned him to do a couple of scores there. Mona Lisa.
Right.
A Neil Jordan film with dear Bob Hoskins.
This is when you're producing at Handmade.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was involved with Handmade thanks to dear George Harrison, and who asked me, a wonderful conversation I had with him, at the end of the first Elton John 2-man world tour, which I did, just the two of us, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
George rang me at the end of that. He came to see the show a couple of other times. You just thought it was incredibly crazy, wonderful stuff. And he rang me and said, what are you doing now? And I actually wasn't doing anything. And I'd loved the theatre. I'd been in the theatre, not very successfully, but I just loved it. It was embedded in me. And I said, well, and he said, well, you know all these people in the theatre. I think I've got a film company on my hands. Why don't you be me in the office? And I knew what he was offering me. He was offering me this extraordinary opportunity to do something that I'd always wanted to do, to be in the middle of that most magnificent collaboration called filmmaking, where you've got all of the disciplines coming together, all of it's coming together. And we started, and the first film, I was at the end of the first film. I came in at the end of the first film, which was Life of Brian, which was extraordinary. But it couldn't be sold anywhere. It took 25 years for The Life of Brian to be seen in Italy, because it was none of the Catholic countries would take it, because they didn't quite get it at that point.
Well, it is amazing if you look back and you see those TV interviews, those TV debates, and you have an archbishop and Cleese and Palin,
Muggeridge, I think.
And you forget how times have changed.
Yeah.
I bet Ireland was a problem as well, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Just to finish
all of it, sorry.
Just to finish off with Michael Kamen, he did the music for The Craze.
Yeah, I know.
And which is terribly disturbing and strange, not orchestrated. And then he ended up producing the last Spandau Ballet single before we split up and,
Well, before we go further, I want to share two little bits of trivia for our audience about Brazil. The first is that I'm assuming everyone's seen it. I mean, it is one of the most magnificent films ever made. It's like it's a Citizen Kane of a movie. Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. But this whole incredible chain of events that unfolds in Brazil is started by Ray swatting a fly.
Oh, yeah.
So you are actually the man who sets the whole thing in motion.
Yes, you're right. I forgot about that. Yes.
And the other thing is that in the score, that lovely da 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 da, when the big choral refrain of that is actually all the revelers, all the guests at David Gilmour's bonfire party.
That's right.
Because, of course, it was Michael was already a great friend of David's because he did all the orchestrations for The Wall. Comfortably Numb, the greatest orchestra in a pop song ever. And so he just turned up with a couple of mics and got everyone to sing this thing around the bonfire. And that's what you hear in the movie.
Where was that?
At
Notting Hill somewhere?
No, it was out in... Where was it? When he lived in Goring, I think. So.
Because you were an actor as well, weren't you?
A very bad one.
Because how did that happen? In the theatre?
Well, it was a magical period in the 60s where you could, you probably don't remember it, but you could do anything really. You could, if you.
That's certainly what we've grown up to be taught.
You sort of walk in somewhere and someone would say, "Well, can you carry a spear?" It wasn't quite like that, but no, I loved the theatre, and I had no, and I'd started because I first got a job as going on stage playing a drum, and then I got sort of noticed, and someone said, "Well, do you want to actually hold a spear instead of hitting the drum?"
What? Because you were hitting a drum. You said being a drum
as a performing musician, in costume, and then I went on from there, and I did a couple of things at the Royal Shakespeare Company and the National. Then I went across the Thames to the Old Vic.
Because the National Theatre started at the Old Vic, didn't it? And then
exactly with Laurence Olivier and
did you meet
Kenneth
Olivier?
Turner? Wonderfully so, yes. I did a play where I had to beg money from him with a young boy. I had to push this young boy on called Leonard Whiting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Later to become
Romeo,
Romeo with
yeah.
Olivia de Havilland. Olivia can't remember her second name. Sorry, but
someone younger than Olivia de Havilland. Yeah,
it was a Zephyr Elliot's version.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Bruce Robinson was in, wasn't he?
It was a Congreve play, Love for Love, I think it was, and I was waiting to go on, and immediately that stage door opened from the wings into. You felt his presence. He was huge as a human being, and he would tap my shoulder, and I'd go on, and then he'd follow with a big stride. And as soon as that leg came from the curtain, the audience all went, which was a lot of the young actors hated that, but he was incredible.
So they clapped on his when he entered.
On his leg, yes, as his leg came through the curtain. But he was incredible.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary. There was that period where he was doing two different plays in the same day, because he could, and it was wonderful.
And you met Harold Pinter at the same time.
Yeah. They were doing the Homecoming. That was at the Royal Shakespeare Company. That was at the Aldwych.
And this is the original Homecoming.
Yeah, with Ian Holm, who was doing Henry V at the same time. Yeah,
so was this going to be a way that you were going to go, or were you still parallel with music?
Until I realised I couldn't. Until I realised that unless I got a lot more tutorial and the spear carrying wasn't going to make it for me. I mean, I was in dressing rooms with, all sorts of extraordinary actors that were to become very famous, and looking at them all and thinking, well, I love this, but I can't do this. I had music in the background all the time. And after the Aldwych and the Vic, I'd be going into Soho to meet up with sort of jazz musicians and playing for nothing in the strip clubs, which were mainly owned by the Crays. I met them.
Really? You met them?
But
Oh
it's because there was that fantastic, like so how all the disciplines were crossed, and that the thing of you would have been in the theatre, and Paul Jones and Marianne Faithfull, and all these people are doing like proper theatre, not just like panto.
We would meet, and that's what I think is so magical about that period, and what we have to recreate again, because we're not meeting. I mean, we are now. This is wonderful. This is a great, not only an honour, but it's a privilege to talk to two fellow musicians, actors, whatever, around the table and discuss what we do, because out of it comes new ideas. And this is what we're not doing anymore. I mean, we have to push our managements and all that aside and say, let's go and have dinner together. And come up with stuff that is so magical in these dark boxes that the lights go down and the curtains are open, that we can actually do battle against AI.
Good statement. But the thing is, it's not a surprise that your background is theatrical, though, is it? Because part of what you do as a percussionist and why you're so popular is because of your theatre.
Well, that was the great joy, and I think that, and I forever be grateful to him for dear Sir Elton, because when he asked me to, I knew him. I've probably known him longer than most of the other members of the band, because I knew him when he was a session musician. When he was playing
when he's
piano,
still Reg.
When he's playing piano or doing backing vocals, I'd see him in the booth, or we'd occasionally have a cup of coffee. But that was, and then one day I remember getting a phone call from a fixer to do an Elton John album. I didn't know who Elton John was, and I didn't physically know who he was. And I went into the studio down in Lower Oxford Street, Dick James, and it was my friend who I used to work with in the sessions. It was Elton. That was Elton. No. I won't use his old name.
No, of course. But should we go all the way back? Let's go all the way back.
We want to know what got you into music, really. I mean, and how that started.
Was there that one song? Was there a eureka?
No, it wasn't a song. It was a realization. When I was a young kid, my mother was a war widow. My father managed to get out of the army. Managed to come home but unfortunately, one of the last jobs he had was clearing out Belsen, which was, and he died through that. So he was she was a war widow, all on her own. But the only thing we had, and I was a little toddler, but the only thing we had of his was his piano. He played piano. And I think I probably used to toddle up to it, and the keyboard would be there. I'd be plonking away, and it used to make her happy. She'd laugh, because she was quite a sad lady when I remember that. And I probably registered then that this is quite a nice thing to do. You make people.
Where
happy.
Are we?
We're in Hackney, which is where I'm from, the East End, all around Hackney. My whole family was Hackney Marshes, Bow, Bethnal Green. My mother was from Bethnal Green.
So was music hall part of the noise, or was it classical?
But and we had a radio that you had to. The only thing they had a radio where you had to wait for the valves to warm up. It was wonderful. This crackling noise. It was very exciting. And of course, there was no television. But I think that's what started me off, wanting to entertain people, not necessarily through music, but entertain. I thought that was a good way of doing things. That was a nice life. And then my mother, bless her heart, she had very little money, just because they really didn't look after people after the war very, very well. The government, they promised, but they didn't. And so for, I think it was 6p a week, she managed to get me piano lessons, which was quite incredible. We live in a council flat, and we had this piano lessons. And so by the age of 12, I was quite a precocious pianist. I used to play at school assemblies, and that, in fact, gave me a world that I could live in this kind of rough existence. It was a boys' school near Hackney Marshes, and I could have gone any which way, as we all could in the East End. But music gave me a box to live in, and it was wonderful, and it was expansive.
It made you special, right?
Well, it made me not feel special, but it made me have an existence of a special world, a different world to anybody else's world. And I was learning about classical music, which is mind-boggling for me at that point.
Was your mum into classical? Was it the was it the piano teacher?
No. It was what I was learning on the piano, but also then that would take me to say it's like libraries which are disappearing. You know, you take one book and that leads you on to that book, and then you find that one. You know, that's the joy of it all.
And what music are you hearing? Is there music around you, like just radio stuff?
It was on the Valve radio. It was, you know, it was the band show. What was it? Billy Cotton's band.
Wakey Wakey.
Driving me mad, you know, that stuff. Or the Sunday hymnal thing, which I didn't enjoy either.
Songs of praise.
So I was searching for it all the time. I was searching for stuff that I liked listening to. And gradually, as I grew older, still in school, the odd mate would have a wind-up record player or something, and started buying records. You know.
And how did percussion?
Well, that was survival.
Because I mean, piano is a percussion instrument, but
it is. When it's not a solo instrument, it's a member of the percussion family, which is the biggest family in the whole of the orchestra, and it's a completely global family too. It comes from everywhere in the world. Musical instruments.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. The harpsichord is a stringed instrument because it plucks.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Anything with a hammer has gotten caught up in the percussive world.
My builder's got a hammer, but he's not a percussionist. Anyway.
But I so
wonderful harpsichord player.
Yes.
So now while I'm at secondary school, can read most things on the piano and everything else. I decided that grandly I wanted to be a conductor and composer. Big dreams, you see. And I think you've got to believe in the beauty of your dreams. That's where the future is.
For sure.
But that was a big one to have. So I thought, well, one of the ways, if I'm going to compose things for people, I should know what it feels like to play them. So I took up woodwind, still not percussion, woodwind. And I played clarinet and flute and other bits and pieces, which I loved. And I got quite good at that. Then I took up the double bass just to see what it felt like. Great instrument. And the importance of this being that this was when you could do that in school. It didn't cost your mother or your father anything.
Wow.
Now this is another thing we've got to fight for.
Yeah.
Because this is
Free lessons.
This is all being taken out of schools. The music should be absolutely in the curriculum for everybody.
Of course it should.
And it should be free for everybody. It's such a healthy... Anyway, we'll get on to that.
That's true. Now, I wish I'd never slagged off the recorder. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Standing in a pool of your own drool.
exactly.
And then this incredible man came to the school, an eccentric, nobody had ever seen. You know, people nervously laughed, you know, because he was kind of scary. His name was Jeremy Montague, and he was a wonderful man. And he was my mentor. He was the reason I'm sitting here now. He was a peripatetic teacher, a visiting teacher, teaching percussion. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll get involved in that too. You know. And he was extraordinary. He was extraordinary.
Can I ask, what are the main tools of a percussionist in that period? It's not congas, is it?
No, it's not.
duck call.
That's in it as well. No, it was timpani.
Right.
It was getting a snare drum technique to do the roll, which is the most important, of course, and the paradiddles and all the other stuff. Yeah. Cymbals, clashing cymbals, triangles, all the
Glockenspiel and xylophone.
Glockenspiel, xylophone, and vibraphone. Where, of course, vibraphone and the tuner was not natural to me, but it was a lot easier because I could read anything. I could read music. So with two hammers, though, it's a bit more complicated, perhaps.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this journey was coming to an end as my school career was coming to an end. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I actually left school and got a job in a factory, in an engineering factory, which was terrifying, working with, first of all, no music allowed, ever, even in the
Not even whistle while you work?
Not even whistle while you work, no. The machinery was so loud that they just wanted quiet when they were taking their tea break and all that.
Right.
But there were older men with bits of fingers missing, you know, from machine, and I was thinking, what am I doing here, you know? And then...
that's percussion.
Could have ended up in Black Sabbath.
Or craft work.
Exactly. And then Jeremy Montague, extraordinary. Jeremy Montague, out of his own volition, found out where I lived and came to my mother's house in the block of flats in Hackney, knocked on the door and said, where's Ray? Where's your son? And he, well, he's in the factory down the road. And he said, no. He said, can I talk to you? And I think your son's got a lot of talent, and I'd like to take him to a man called James Blades, who was the wonderful percussion player at that point. This is all classical, though, all classical stuff. Still no congas, still no tambourines. Well, tambourine, but not
Jimmy Blades.
Jimmy Blades.
Did he did the gong, didn't he? On
For J. Arthur Rank.
yes.
Wow.
But actually,
Not related to muscly guy.
Not related to Reuben Blades, though,
That
which
was-
would be congas.
Bombardier Billy Wells, we're going everywhere now, but this
Yeah,
is true. Bombardier Billy Wells looked like he hit that gong. He was the guy that actually
what
on the big picture.
Oh.
But that gong was actually paper mache, because if you hit one that big, it would be a terrible sound. Meanwhile, in the background, Jimmy was playing, who was a tiny man anyway, but he was playing a tam-tam, which had an extraordinary sound. One, whatever. I'll come to that. So yes, he did that, and he also.
Well, we can
did
discuss
the,
gongs because obviously I play the gong, don't I? With
Yeah.
Specialist Secrets.
He tried.
He also did in the Second World War that bum 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 the Beethoven signal.
Fifth.
Yeah.
He did that.
Yeah, V for Victory, that was, wasn't it?
V for Victory.
That was the semaphore of the
Exactly.
letter V.
So Jimmy did that as well. He did everything. He did everything. And anyway, he was about to become the first professor of percussion at the Royal Academy of Music. They'd never had one before, because it was like, percussion. Give that to the singers. They can play a triangle. Jimmy was about to make it something very important. And so Jeremy pulled me out of the factory. My mother was aghast. How's he going to earn a living? Trust me. He was wonderful. And he took me to Jimmy Blades' house, where I auditioned for Jimmy. And Jimmy, I think, he's a lovely man. He was always laughing and making jokes. He saw in me someone that wasn't going to be a great classical player. Wasn't become the masculine Evelyn Glennie, who was brilliant and wonderful. No, but because Jimmy was a circus performer, he used to play drums in the circus. With all the trapeze went
So
on.
you're learning
So
some
he
theatrics.
saw something in me, but was about being an entertainer,
Right.
wanting to perform for people. So he took me on as one of the first students at the Royal Academy.
Because I'm thinking, because as well as classical, there are all the swing bands and everything at this point, aren't there?
Yes,
So
of
there's-
course, and there's Buddy Holly, and there's
Oh, already? Okay, so right.
Yeah, but swing bands have percussionists
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
similar in that
Yes,
sense,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
they?
But it was that's how I went to the academy.
So if it wasn't for
Jeremy Montague,
Jeremy Montague, which is the most fantastic English post-war name, but then Jimmy Blades, who is completely a gangster and doesn't seem to fit in at all.
Yeah,
and he had a brother Tommy.
If it wasn't for that, you would have been just 25 years in the factory, gold watch.
Probably, yes, yeah, or whatever. I would probably wouldn't get the gold watch.
Well, yeah.
And then you start to do session work. But is that come before?
No, I started to do orchestral work first while I was at the academy. It wasn't supposed to work. I mean, the academy is a changed place now. It's a wonderful, fully rounded place for all sorts of music now. When I was there, it was really classical music. And if you played jazz or anything else, you were really asked to leave.
But the pre-60s world was that, wasn't it?
It was the
It was
60s
absolutely,
going
yes.
in,
It was the absolute divide.
Yeah.
And how did you make the transition then?
Well, it was because I was doing this classical music, which was wonderful because I was learning so much. But the other side of me, the sort of the waiting for the valves to grow up and Billy Cotton's band show and seeing my mother smile, was also yearning to get into something that was meaty. I wanted to play jazz.
So was there a classical writer, though, that embodied all of that for you, that you loved playing?
It was, well, strange enough, I was very lucky, I think, because I discovered Bach quite early in life. And Bach, of course, I think was the greatest jazz musician of his time. He was really out there.
He invented bass playing as we know it, for a start.
Figured bass.
Yeah.
It was cool charts.
The arpeggios.
Yeah, all
Cool
those
charts.
cello concertos, that's bass playing. That's where it comes
It's
from.
incredible stuff. And as I've gotten older and listened more and more to him, it's just so profound and wonderful and funny and joyous. He was non-stop writing. He was just writing all the time. He never wrote at the keyboard. He wrote everything from the head. Extraordinary. And he used to make jokes. There's one. I think it's a two-piece two-part invention, where if you play it all the way through, if you turn it upside down, you can play it all the way. It's the same thing, you know. It's just because he could, because he's just having fun.
And some things were
palindromic.
Palindromic. Some things were written as architectural structures, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we've pulled you back into the wrong direction, I think. Sorry, that was my fault.
No, but somebody did say that music is the liquid architecture of our emotions.
Oh, lovely.
And
Who said it? You.
No, well, if only. No. But I think it's right. It is that. It is that.
So, come on, Ray. I was
important. Sorry.
How you ended up in pop music?
Well, so doing a bit of orchestral work, I suddenly got, with the CBSO, the City of Birmingham Orchestra and the BBC and all that sort of stuff. I got involved with a larger amount of people, and suddenly somebody said to me, "You play vibraphone?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, do you play a little bit of jazz?" I said, "Well, I can. I think so." I said, "Well, Johnny Dankworth is looking for."
Oh.
So I got involved with Johnny Dankworth's big band, and that was extraordinary. I mean, that was really
Cleo
Is that with Cleo singing?
She was wonderful.
Amazing.
There were two sets. There was the Johnny Dankworth band set, then there was the Cleo set. And all of us, I mean, Johnny was wonderful, such a lovely man, but Cleo was all...
Totally unique. I watched her on a YouTube thing recently.
Yeah.
So
the
good.
voice, the way she was, both of them the most generous musicians, you know. I don't know if you've ever played at Waverden, their house.
No, I know it. I do know it, yeah.
I did the opening concert there with the big band there, yeah.
Oh, right.
But there was all sorts of wonderful people in there. So there was this, then it was the jazz musicians then who said to me, you play other things, you play tambourine, because we've got a session tomorrow, do you want it? And that was my way into the session world, into studio work. So classical, meeting the jazz musicians, and then they took me into the session.
And you ended up playing with Blue Mink, didn't you? Is that
Yes.
Well, that was, I ended up playing with, well, not ended up, but I played with that great rhythm section. Herbie Flowers, Barry Morgan,
yes.
God bless
Yes.
well, both of them. They must be having fun wherever they are, you know. And I became a part of that magic group. That
Roger Cook, Roger Greenaway.
Yeah.
Well, but the actual rhythm section group,
Right.
Cook and Greenaway,
Yeah.
and Madeline Bell, of course.
Yes.
Another great set. Yeah. So that was.
And Alan Parker.
Fun. Alan Parker, yeah.
Who played the opening riff of Rebel Rebel.
That's right.
Great player.
Yeah.
Unbelievable player. Really. I mean, they were wonderful musicians. Barry was the most generous, wonderful human being. And he taught me a lot because Barry was a bongo player, conga player originally, before he took up drums. That's what he was doing in the early session days. He was playing, in fact, there was a famous gas advert which they played it at his funeral because it was one of the fastest things you've ever heard. But Barry was wonderful. So when I came in, anything I wanted to know about Latin percussion, Barry would say, "Well, come on, I'll show you." He was wonderful. He was so generous, and he became a really dear friend of my family and me of his family.
You played on three things that I wanted to mention, which one of them was really important to me because it was the very first song I ever played on TV, which is America. Horse with No Name.
Horse with No Name, on bongos, yes. Which are instruments I don't like
Sandman.
playing, actually, but they're Horse with No Name. I was the only other musician on that track, yeah. And that went on forever and ever. Number one, it was... And the other number one that Herbie Flowers and myself did, and that was another accident, really, was Rock On.
Yes.
Which I remember...
One of the greatest, most avant-garde bits of bass playing ever.
Well, it was,
And the percussion's going through some delays and stuff,
No,
isn't
it was also... what happened was there was an arrangement. Jeff Wayne had done an arrangement of that song. And both Herbie and myself, we used to work with Jeff a lot, doing all these jingles.
I was saying, it was an ad guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, very clever man, and he really got most of the work because he was very, very good at it, very, very clever. And nice man, very, very clever composer. But the arrangement wasn't working. It just didn't work, and I think we sent the strings home even, And Herbie was always, he said, "Ray, should we go in the studio and come on." So he went in, and I went in. It was just the two of us initially. And Barry D'Souza, the drummer, was waiting, and he did this bing bong, and it was a conversation almost that we were having.
Did you have parts? You didn't have parts?
No.
So who was what? Someone showed you the song on piano, or
No, we'd tried the song anyway, and the arrangement didn't work, so we knew the song, as it were. But we decided, it's like Herbie's famous "Walk on the Wild Side."
Yeah.
Another. Let me have a go in the studio, and then "Walk on the Wild Side" bass line.
Well, that was about getting the overdub fee, wasn't it?
Wonderful.
So was David Essex in the room when you were doing this, or
he was in the control booth,
right.
getting wondering and worried.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how you could do that without him singing, without a vocal. Did you have a vocal?
We had a guide vocal.
You did have a guide, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why there was a 3-part conversation going on, really. And Herbie, congas, and David, and then it worked. And then I think Barry came in, put a little bit of drums on it, and then it just went out like that. I remember in Caribou with Elton,
Right.
and that record was still #1 in those days in America. And I remember Elton at breakfast one day saying, "If I hear that effing song one more time," I said, "I know you played on it. Stop it." I said,
But congas were kind of. One other thing I just wanted to mention is he played on Six Wives of Henry VIII.
yes.
Absolute prog percussion.
Yeah.
But
Dear Rick Wakeman, it's wonderful. Did you go to the live performance of it?
no.
Oh,
At Hampton Court?
Yes, indeed.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And I've forgotten it. It was so many years since we'd done it. So many years, but the charts were like 4 music stands long. If you had, you couldn't, because you had no chance to, especially if you're holding a tambourine, you got no chance to turn pages. It was just, you had to stretch it out and walk up. The charts were enormous. A bit like Jeff Lynne about War of the Worlds, which I was on as well.
Right.
I did that. That went on forever. Overdubs. Wonderful. At some point, they were in the studio and the 35mm started to shred because they'd had copy tapes, thank God. But it had been so overworked with overdubs. It actually started to peel away.
At the time, though, there was this. I think as opposed to the 60s, I remember there being a sense of, the congas and the bongos are happening. And it kind of happened, for me, it was T-Rex and Mickey Finn.
It was, yes.
Yeah. And I guess that was sort of slightly
because
hippie-ish.
he was a band member though as well, wasn't it? It was the fact that he was very...
Yeah, but also there was a sort of, people were going to Morocco, weren't they? They were going to North Africa.
Exactly.
They were coming back.
There was a lot of more travel going on, yeah. And also there was a lot more people bringing South American music to our areas here. We had records then, South America. Beautiful Cuban music. Cuban music was a bit more difficult to get until Ry Cooder came along, bless his heart.
Yeah, true. But
yeah.
But that bossa nova thing had been there since the 50s, though, hadn't it?
Yeah.
That also always been a very popular.
It was a setting on my uncle's organ.
Well, the thing I still love, and I've probably said this on here a million times before, but I still love the fact that you know what the translation of bossa nova is.
No,
It's new wave.
That's why, of course, yeah.
It's
a new wave, of course. I forgot. Sorry, you caught me off track.
It's the post-punk of Brazilian music.
No, you're right. It was good stuff. But we were beginning to listen to it all. And but going back to our dear Sir Elton John, he saw when he invited me in to come to the band that he wanted to enlarge the band because he'd got David Johnson in. It was a trio, as you know. David talked much more coherently than I can about it. The trio was phenomenal. And then he brought Davey in, who was a phenomenal player because he's so multi-instrumental. It's just extraordinary, including the violin. He probably didn't talk about that, but it's extraordinary.
Because the trio had made that great radio album, hadn't they, from when they were in LA, that live album.
The True Troubadour. Extraordinary.
No, there's a radio thing. You always bring it up. He's always
and I can never remember what the date is. It's something like 1911-70 or something like that.
Exactly. A wonderful album. Extraordinary. The three of them.
His talent.
I know. Extraordinary. And A Star Was Born, as I can't remember his name now, the writer on the LA Times after the night after the first night, the Troubadour, Star Is Born.
So was it Tumbleweed Connection your first?
I was over.
No, Madman
I was
overdubbing
on not overdubbing, was putting extra tracks on quite a few of the albums before I joined. I was on Honky Chateau as an extra, putting stuff on. and a little bit on something else, and
That was my way into Elton Honky Chateau, and then I remember when piano. I'm only the piano player. Came out. I remember vividly just going into our little kitchen, saying to my mum, "Please, can I have $1.99 for this record? You'll like it too."
It was a great record.
Yeah, it was a great record. But also, I mean, it seems incredible looking at this day and age that Elton's contract was an album every 6 months. You were making 2 albums a year.
It was like joining the Navy.
Yeah,
He did 9 albums in 6 years.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it was.
Whereas you do sort of 9 remixes.
No, it was an extraordinary time. But he asked me to join, and I first of all, I couldn't see myself in the band. I couldn't visually see it. And he had much more of a concept of, because he knew that I loved the theatre, and he was a very theatrical player, throwing himself around. But he knew that was limited because he was trapped by the piano. So I think he saw that I could be something else going on, as indeed the percussion section at the back of the orchestra is. No matter what's going on, your eyes are unfortunately or fortunately lifted when the guy gets up and holds the triangle or picks the cymbals up. Because
it's the 1812 overture, isn't it? It's that everyone's waiting for that moment.
Because percussion is punctuation. So you're waiting for the exclamation mark, or you're waiting for the full stop, or the question mark, or whatever it is. And he saw that, and it was very, very clever of him, I think, too. And then
did he encourage your choreography?
He did, and he very trusting and generous, extremely generous. He's always been an incredibly generous musician.
So what was the first show you did with him?
Well, I said, because he rang me several times, and I said, I was in Bloomink, and I loved the band. We were all big friends. And it was Barry Morgan who said, "Hey, come on, get out of it, go. This is he's asking you, do it. So I said, okay, look, I think the only way I can do it is where are you tomorrow? And he said, well, I think it was Bristol. He said, well, can I come and see the show? He said, of course, come and see the show. So I saw the show, and I was in the midst of all these screaming kids, and I'm looking at people with big high boots on and hair down here, and I did have a bit of hair then, but not much more than I've got now. And driving gloves for drumming and all the colour. I thought, I still can't see it. Why would he want me to? Why would he really want me be there? So went backstage. He said, what do you think? I said, where are you tomorrow? He said, well, not tomorrow, but I'm driving up to Scotland. I'm doing Glasgow. I said, okay, if this is going to work, I'll come on stage in Glasgow. I'll just do it. And if you like what I do, and if I feel comfortable, he said, great, fine. So I went to Glasgow. My introduction was Glasgow Apollo, which was
hilarious.
They love percussion there.
And of course the poor sound
thwack.
The poor sound engineer, a wonderful man, Clive Franks. He probably, we didn't even have time to balance what I was going to do. And I'm an acoustic player. I don't play anything with electronics on it at all, apart from the vibraphone, which has a little motor working the fans. But I wasn't using a vibraphone at that point. So it was just congas and tambourine, basically, and cymbals or whatever. And of course, I'd never stood in the middle of such volume before either. So I came off. All my hands were shredded. I was bleeding everywhere.
You were hitting too hard.
Because I couldn't hear myself. So I thought blah blah blah, and I came off. But I was elated, needless to say, blooded but elated. And he sat down with me then and said, "Well," and I said, "If you'll have me, I'm in, please, thank you."
What did Nigel think?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know that Nigel and Dee were that happy at that point, because they, it wouldn't. I think there was a feeling of a band, but Elton was the boss. He always was the boss. Yeah. He is the boss. He should be. He is. He's just, So and it was his decision. And I had to sort of fare with that for a bit. I think both Nigel and Dee felt that percussion wasn't necessary. It could have been something else, but I had to, So I had to befriend them, really.
Well, I'd also argue the other side of that is it's not like being a new guitarist. It's not like you're suddenly taking all the limelight, taking the solos. It's the one thing that you can introduce.
Oh, you do look at right.
No, there is. Well, I was gonna say, in fact, When did what I would call for me seems very much your signature, your windmill, if you will, is that your mallet symbol thing,
or the tambourine.
Oh yeah.
Let's face it.
Well, they're circus tricks. It's going back to Jimmy Blades.
Right.
It's what I knew the people could see, which was, and in fact, it's a simple trick. Anyway, I won't. But I make my own sticks. I make my own sticks.
Is there a percussionist circle? Yeah. You're not allowed to give away the secrets.
It's not.
You make your own mallets.
Yeah.
What's at the end?
It's piano felt and cork under it. A cork like a fishing cork. And I round it with sandpaper. Then I put layers of piano felt. And I get them to various softness or hardness.
Oh, have you done a YouTube video?
So, Ray,
Jeremy taught me how to do that.
Elton retired, didn't he? Do you remember that? The big thing, 1976, 77 or something?
It was at Wembley Arena.
Basically, he's doing what Bowie did. He's just getting rid of the band, isn't he?
I don't know. It was a very strange. I'll never forget it. It was an extraordinary day because we were performing in the arena, and he had a leather motorcycle jacket and a beret, a black beret, and I was retuning a set of 5 timpani. I was using timpani on stage at that.
5.
That's
very 70s.
That's very 70s.
That's the double bass drum of percussion.
You would have got that on Ronnie Scott.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'd done Funeral for a Friend, and I was doing something else. Better Off Dead, I think. I was tuning, and you have to do it, surreptitiously, and then suddenly he starts playing sort of jazzy chords on the piano. And I think, this is interesting. I'm still trying to tune the things. And he said, thank you for coming tonight. He said, but I'll paraphrase. He said, thank you for coming tonight because this is the last show I'm doing. And everybody I stopped and I looked over. Davey looked at me and said, what did he say? I said, and he said, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. And it was like, no. And people, he said, no, thank you for everything you've done for me and blah. He was very gracious. But that was it. And I just got a mortgage on a new house.
Oh, my word.
No.
And no, I mean, that was by the by.
Well, not really.
It was a 70s thing, though, wasn't it? I mean, Bowie did it, Sinatra did it, I'm did it. I mean,
done.
Elvis died, I think. It was just like
that was in 77.
Well, Vegas, the same thing.
And I didn't hear from him, and that's when it comes to the two-man show.
Yeah.
In 78, the phone
77,
rang.
wasn't it? Oh, sorry.
70, was it 77?
77 was the first one.
The first, the phone rang, and I picked it up. In those days, no mobile phones. It was him immediately. I hadn't heard from him since that moment.
Oh wow!
And he said, how are you? And I'm actually want to do some shows. I said, that's fantastic. And he said, have you rang the boys? He said, no, I'm ringing you. And I said, oh, well, I'm ringing me first because he said, no, I want to do a show with you, just you. I said, wow, that's a concept. That's incredible. I don't know what to say really, except thank you. That would be wonderful. So we started off that journey of the two-man show. In 77, we did the Princess Alexandra thing at the Finsbury Park, which I had no idea was recorded, generally. No idea, until last year. Wow. I had no idea.
And was it all in good nick, or did you have to replace anything?
I don't know. I never heard it until it came out.
Well, it obviously was all right.
It sounds great.
And you played vibes on that? No, what did you play on that?
There was a
Glock?
There was a vibe. No, there wasn't a vibraphone on that.
I don't think so.
Is it Glock or something?
No, because I don't think so.
Well, also because what's interesting, something that's great, is that the piano is treated on a lot of the songs.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's like it's phase or it's almost like he knows how to go at it.
I did play double piano. I play electric piano with him at some point.
Right.
And quite badly because at that point my hands are all swollen and.
But I remember it being, obviously, it highlighted him as a vulnerable musician, a talented musician.
Brave thing to do.
You were the theatre. You were, when he's at the piano, you're really taking up a lot of the.
But we were both the theatre. It was, as you know, two people. It's a thin thread. Mm-hmm. You have to physically play off of each other and mentally.
Do you make eye contact?
Yes, and no. You know, he, again, with a great generosity and trust, when he was deeply involved, he trusted that I would be doing something, but it wouldn't be. And I knew that I worked with a lighting man a lot. I said, I want to walk, and he said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to walk into your light and walk out of it. I want to make shadows. I don't want to be seen necessarily, except my hands. That's the show. That's going to be the show. And he said, wow. I said, well, and I gave him some books of 1930s German
so expressionist kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shadow
I said,
play.
that's what it needs to be. You don't need to see me. You just need to see what I'm doing, the sticks, the fanning sticks, the this, that, and the other. That would be magic. It'd be like Walt Disney with the bag.
Yeah, could I also say it's really, really inspired the idea of the piano and the percussion, because it's probably the one instrument or set of instruments you can have where it doesn't feel like something's missing. Because you can't just be with the drum, have a piano and a drum kit, or you can have a bass, but again that's something. But it's still one texture. But you still got that whole. You've got a whole world of textures you can do.
I'm colouring. I'm colouring the words. I'm colouring the music. I'm doing the punctuation.
So you
I'm doing nothing at some point.
In many ways, as a percussionist listens a lot.
Has to, yeah.
More than any other musician in many ways.
Yeah, yes, you have to know your ins, your exits and your entrances.
Yeah. Exits with Bear. But do you went to Russia, didn't you? Which is
that's what I wanted to
wasn't that like one of the first bands?
It was the
ever?
first. It was the first. Yeah. It was the first.
And that was very
And it was
interesting.
filmed by Ian Lefrene.
And Dick Clements.
Yeah.
Who were great old
And what
mates.
a
Who I
team.
still, I mean, I don't know if it's
Yeah, dear old
Ian
friends of
tells
mine.
me, it's a dear old friend of ours. I always stay with Ian when I'm in LA. He told me one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in my life, which is about that, but you probably know it. Maybe you should tell it. But no, should I try it? Do you want to hear it?
Please.
You start it, he can finish it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Apparently, okay, you were in the Kremlin, and suddenly all the KGB handlers go into a huddle, and Ian's like, "Oh, what's going on? This sounds a bit exciting." And someone comes out and goes, "It's been decided that Mr. John can see the Kremlin Fabergé egg collection." And he goes, "This is going to be amazing. This is going to be fantastic."
Is
I
this
can't
ringing
wait."
bells? Right?
Yeah.
And they go, and they go, no cameras, just Mr. John. And he's like, "Oh no, man!" So they go, all right. So Elton gets whisked off to see the Fabergé egg collection. You know, it's the Tsar's Fabergé egg collection.
Yeah.
Comes back an hour later, and Ian goes around and goes, "So Elton, what was it like? What was it like?" I've got more.
That's true, actually. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to go, so I
you had brilliant.
But I did do one thing all on my own because Elton was supposed to do it, but he didn't feel well that day. So I did get a glimpse of the Winter Palace, which was extraordinary. You know, I don't know how many rooms it has for a family of whatever it was. You know, it's just extraordinary. It was a very eye-opening and inspiring visit.
Yeah,
What were the audience like?
They were fantastic. They were wonderful. And first of all, there was KGB or people look at afters at the end of all the rows, and they were not watching the show. They were looking at the audience, which was okay, but it was brief. And then at one point, I think we landed in Moscow and then went to Leningrad, and then we came back to Moscow to finish the show off. But somewhere in Leningrad, those KGB guys disappeared because I think they realised that the young kids, they could let this happen, and it did. The kids then managed to get up and start. They knew all the lyrics of the songs. It was so moving, you know, because they listened to them on the you know, they would. Some people were living near the border where they get American forces radio, and they'd record it, and most of them could speak English through the Beatles. Through listening to Beatle songs.
Well, Tom Stoppard wrote about in rock and roll. He wrote a lot of that.
Extraordinary, inspiring and engaging and heartbreaking in some ways, but magnificent as well. It was and Elton loved it. We were all sort of, what's this going to be like? But it was actually quite extraordinary.
Yeah, because I played there with Pink Floyd when it was still Soviet. And but the thing we had, I wonder if you had the similar thing, which was at the front, it would be all people it would be like whoever your factory made the most tractors this year. You get 2 tickets to the Bolshoi, 2 tickets to Pink Floyd, whether you want it or not.
That's right.
And so you used to have all these people. I remember once, front row centre, we had a guy sitting there just desperately trying to listen to a football match on his little earphones. and then all the kids were kind of put at the back as much as possible. But it was that. And the thing the one thing I always really remember was our sound man, Buford, used to play Asteroids on his computer at the sound desk and all these people would be crammed around because they'd never seen anything like it. Except you think, but this was the country that at the time had the most advanced space program in the world.
Yes,
yeah.
Weird.
Well, that's why they didn't get to the moon, because you can't get me on asteroids, can you? Really?
But there was some show. Was it in Russia? There were some shows where you weren't well, and there was a cardboard cutout.
No, that was in America.
That was in America. Okay.
That was in America. That was in. That was before we went to. That was the band shows. That was the band shows in the Madison Square Garden.
But hang on, this isn't between. This isn't.
No, this was before his
okay.
first retirement.
Oh, right. I thought there were some of the two-man shows where you had a cutout.
I think that 74, 75.
Well, so I've got bad intel there, and I apologise.
Yeah. And it wasn't, obviously it wasn't my idea, but I was in hospital in London, and I couldn't get there. I did actually get the last two shows at Madison Square Garden, but my roadie, who's dead now, unfortunately, was a lovely, lovely man, Scotsman, Booby Daniels. He had this huge blow-up picture made, life-size, and he stuck it up on the screen. Elton, I think, was bemused by it. He didn't know it was happening, but Elton looked up, and there it was. There it was. It was very, very sweet.
Listen, before we get out the 70s, though, there was a couple of little moments. I mean, one is you play on It's Only Rock and Roll album, don't you?
Yes.
Which is
indeed.
Ronnie's first album.
Exactly.
What was that experience like?
It was in the winter, and it was freezing cold, and I had a little car in those days.
Is this down at Mick's house, you recall?
No, it was at Island Studios, where I did the overdubs.
Basing Street.
Yeah. And it started quite late, and we went through to the early hours of the morning.
The Rolling Stones, really? Are you sure?
And Charlie turned up, bless his heart, God bless him, and because he knew what I'd do and did, and he wanted to see me work, which was nice. Charlie and Mick was there, and he just played me. Well, first of all, it was going to be one track, then it turned into another track, and then another track. It was a good evening, interesting stuff.
Yeah, but not Redlands. You got the band back together. I ended up playing. I played on stage at Wembley in the 80s and in Ireland in the 80s with Elton and the band with Davey, and you must have been part of that.
Yes,
I knew the time I do distinctly remember playing with you though is in '87 at a Prince's Trust with Eric Clapton and George Harrison. Yeah, funnily enough, and I was doing Through the Barricades with Tony, and I remember just being so thrilled at seeing this guy. The height. I mean, absolutely. Enough musicians. I've been thrilled by, but it was really right.
It's like seeing Steve Gadd or something. It's just like, oh my God, it's him. Yeah.
Well, there's very kind of the thrill I used to get when I came back with Elton. And there were many years when I wasn't with him, unfortunately. A long time actually, two gaps of 15.
Yeah, I think it was when that time in the 80s I wasn't.
Yeah, in the 80s I wasn't with him. That was when I was at Handmade Films, so I wasn't there at that time. But when I came back to do the $1 Million Piano Show, I'd be living above the shop, as I called it. I'd be in Caesar's Palace Hotel with the band. Most of the band would stay there. Elton would stay somewhere else, and we were at the Coliseum, which you walk through you come down the lift, walk through all the gambling things into the Coliseum. You don't ever need to see daylight. But what was wonderful was that after the show, and there was talking about my idea of walking in out of lights and just, I would be in the lift with a lot of punters who'd been to the show, and they're talking about me, and I'm standing there, and they didn't recognise me at all. Job done. They were talking about the Sticks, and this, that, and I thought, well, yeah, it does work. It does work. Didn't recognise me at all, which was wonderful.
When you're working on a record, say with Elton, are you thinking in terms of your parts? Are you thinking about stuff and how that's going to translate visually?
Yes,
to the show.
Well, I'm always hoping I get to play it on stage. Yeah, right. But it's also about creating. I mean, I think I got a little bit of a name for being able to create space for other people to play in. By that, those 2 and 4 offbeats, as simple as it sounds, but illuminating them without the hi-hat going as well. You've got it on the snare drum, but the isolation of that sound gave a space which someone could then move into or not. So it's all about space, gaps, as I say, punctuation, and the infamous hitting and standing with the finger and waiting for the next one. It's the gap between the notes that's the most exciting thing, really, I think, for the audience, because the anticipation, the intake of breath, what's going to happen next, and it does. So that's what I tried to, endeavoured to do.
It's the sort of visual manifestation of what Miles Davis said, isn't it? Which is about being not what you play, but what you don't play.
What you don't play.
Right.
God bless him.
What's amazing is it's like I saw the other day, 50 years since Captain Fantastic, the music has come alive so much more in the last few years. My kids, my teenagers, they know everything. They listen to everything. It's all so available. It's all being reborn. It used to be just
absolutely
forgotten. There was a time when no one looked back, right? Now it seems to be that it's completely credible if you're a young teenager.
That's right.
To dig into the past.
Well, if you think back not that long ago, there was a generation who didn't know who the Beatles were. I mean, it sounds astonishing, but they were. There was probably 2 generations ahead, actually. And it probably, unfortunately, wasn't because it was because of the tragic death of John that people.
Oh my God! Yeah, John. You mentioned John. We never spoke about you and Elton and playing when John gets on stage.
Yes,
Madison Square Garden.
On record too. We did because Elton, bless him, his generosity was overwhelming, and he just keeps giving. But he called me. We were on tour, and he called me and he said, "Why don't you and I go over to the studio John's doing, and we did whatever gets you through the night," which was the track that Elton said to him he had a wager with John.
That's right, yeah.
Which is true. He said,
wow.
"If this I'm going to play on it, but if it gets to number 1, you got to play live." Because everybody wanted John to play live, but John was quite shy and he didn't really, live, but he enjoyed it.
Wasn't there Yoko was in the audience and she'd sent him
they'd
a
been separated.
white gardenia.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was the beginning of their relationship again.
That's when they got together.
That's when they
Apparently
got back together
the night
again.
that Sean was.
Did he wear it on stage?
Yeah.
Did he wear the white gardenia on stage? Well, no, maybe not. But
it was.
what was it like though? Because this is a Beatle.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary. I mean, I'm one of the. I hate to say this now because not many of us left, but I'm the few people that's worked with them all independently.
Come on, give us a list.
In there all. I've worked with Paul and Ringo, George, of course, a lot.
George a lot, yeah.
And John on record and performing. So there's not many of us left. Jim Keltner might be one of them. I think Jim.
That's right. Yeah.
Jim worked with all of them. I think Willie Weeks worked with George a lot.
What did you do with Ringo?
Albums, because I was working with George a lot. I co-produced a couple of albums with him, but we were handmade films. I loved him. I think he loved me a bit. It was wonderful, and dear friend, I do miss him. Anyway, he would, while we were doing George's records, he'd say, "Oh, Ringo's made it. I better write a tune for him," and he'd write a song for him, and we'd go over to Ringo's house, which used to be John's house at one point, the famous white one where and George would present the song to Ringo, and Ringo would sing it, and I'd be on it. And I did a couple of albums overdubbing on Ringo's stuff. Then Whatever Gets You Through the Night with John. Paul, I did a Wings Out album, and then I also did Live and Let Die, the famous.
Oh. Did you really play on Live and Let Die?
There's a duck quack on that.
God.
There's a duck that leads you into the reggae section where you go,
yeah.
There's a duck quack that takes you into it. Whee! It's wonderful.
There's
a duck quack on the Maynard Ferguson album, which I did as well. I got it out a lot of times, as they say. Yes,
because I always used to love it. It used to make me laugh that when you were in the studio and you'd rent the assorted percussion box. You remember that everyone used to do it, and it always be this joke I used to have with it because there was always a duck call in it, and just this idea of one day a percussionist turning up and there being a producer and him going, right, the duck. Well, you have brought your duck call, haven't you?
Yes. Because for a while it was just you and Louis Jardin, wasn't it? That was
wonderful.
That's all it ever was.
Yeah. And then who else? Danny Cummings.
Yeah,
Danny now. Yeah. We can't go without mentioning Withnail and I either.
You can't. It's Bruce Robinson,
Bruce.
and it was it was George's favourite film of all of them that he made, and a film that almost didn't get made, and there's been books written about it. Apparently, I took Dennis O'Brien, who was George's partner at that time, and partner in Handmade films as well. I took him for a walk, apparently. I don't know what I'm supposed to have said, but I did convince him that because he was going to shut the film down because he didn't think it was funny. And
well, after they already shot some stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're up in the Lake District. And I said to George, George said, "No, I've read that script. It's funny. I want to see this film." Okay. So worked on Dennis, and Dennis said, all right, you can get on with it then. I'm not interested. And it worked. I mean, it was not a financially successful film. I don't think to this day, dear Bruce has seen
he hasn't seen a penny, no.
Which is terrible, because wonderful, incredible piece of writing, and I love the man.
We quote it heavily.
We have about one phone call a year now, and it's hilarious. I just listen to his voice; it's just extraordinary, and he's railing against political.
He's fantastically foul-mouthed as well.
So erudite.
We have a
Ripper,
lot of Sophie's paintings as well.
He's wonderful. It's just a joy.
He is the best, yeah.
And I'm so grateful for so many things that George gave me, but the introduction to Bruce was another piece of work, with Withnail.
But Withnail, just a little aside, because there's that thing when you're in America, especially when you're on tour in America, and anything English is just fantastic. You go and cling to anything English, anything you see. And we were in some little town. So I was on tour with Floyd, and I remember Tim Rennick and a couple of us, and we went to see this film that we didn't know anything about, called Withnail and I. And that's where we saw it. It was just like the most English, just the most perfect thing to ever. But it was in some college town. So, but it was just the most, to see it there when you need that stuff.
It's a wonderful piece. It's a perfect image of that period, that end of the 60s. That really was what it was like in the theatre as well. It's extraordinary.
Right, so I saw the last Elton show when he was retiring and finishing up. It was absolutely fantastic. I took my boys to go to see it, and
at the O2.
At the O2, but I just was just wondering what it felt like. I'm sure I know you've had phone calls since, but what it felt like to finish.
I think for most of us, but for me it was extremely sad. I had no idea I would be seeing him again, and he's very dear in my life. We haven't seen each other, and I've been very lucky to be involved in the iconic early work. And in that early work, of course, we haven't mentioned, and we must mention, Bernie Taupin. Of course, as you said, now the work is now even more salient because of the lyrics, and because of the genius of that marriage between the two of them is extraordinary. By happenstance, they just came together by accident. What a joy! And then, of course, the extraordinary work of which I know Davy Johnson waxed lyrical about, but it was Paul Buckmaster, who I was at the Royal Academy with. So I knew Paul, with a genius writer, and he lived with Miles Davis for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. So he did a lot of arrangements for Miles.
Did he? Wow.
And he introduced him to all sorts of weird and wonderful Hindemith and all sorts of wonderful things.
Oh, right.
Paul.
But how did it feel that? Because
going back to
know
that,
when we
all
finished,
this stuff,
like 2 years ago, we finished with Nick, and we didn't know whether or not we're ever going to do it again. And you just feel the music running underneath you, and you think it's the last time I'm ever going to play that. Is that the last time?
And that was heartbreaking in a way for me. It was very melancholy. It was very difficult for me to not weep at the end of that show. During it, actually, thinking, well, not going to play this song again. Because I have such great memories. There's such a lot of deep stuff going in there.
Yeah, cool.
Well, we've all been through a lot.
I just want to add to that, because you saw it at the O2. I went because my son was at uni in Manchester,
right? And
evening was, so I went up to Manchester to take him to the show, because I said, you got to see Elton. And the one thing, and it was an amazing show. You were amazing, but the thing that really came out was just Elton's sheer gratitude to his audience, and the way he talked about all the clubs he'd played in the 60s in Manchester, and he remembered everything, and it was so genuine, and it was
he's a consummate performer, and he means every word of that. Totally genuine. He loves playing live, and I hope that we can still see him again.
Yeah, we all hope.
Whatever it is, I know he'll never stop playing music ever. He'll never stop writing and encouraging he's continuing encouragement.
That's the other thing. Is no one has ever been. No one has. I don't think anyone's been as good an encourager.
No,
of young
because he does
talent
his
as him.
Apple thing where he's always talking to new artists.
Always that one that Glastonbury always brings up.
Yeah.
You know, George at Live Aid. Remember?
Yeah.
No, incredible. Yeah, and other artists should take a leaf out of that book, you know, because it's a wonderful book that he's set in. You know, yeah.
Ray, thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you, both of you. I'm honoured, and I'm probably rabbled on far too
No,
much.
dream guest.
Dream guest.
No,
it's all going out.
It's all going out, mate.
You're very, very kind by both of you, and it's an honour to be with both of you.
Thank you.
Icons in your.
But this is basically the chat I'd like to have at you in a party. But half the stuff you just think I can't ask him that; he'll just get bored.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So,
But we must keep on about. You know, we must all keep on about. You know, getting together more often because we have to create things that are so exciting.
Salons,
more than we've ever done before. In fact, because you know this big threat we've got now is really, really difficult.
Well, it's live is the thing that will survive. That's the thing that always does. That's the thing that you're not going to replace, and that's what we've got to fight for.
And we have to make it brilliant. I don't want young kids now to grow up that's their norm. Yeah, and that's what we're going to have if we're not doing such extraordinary, groundbreaking work.
He's only halfway through his career.
Exactly.
we could wrap up here, can't we? And just say, you know, thank you. It's been really nice doing this face to face at last.
It's been fantastic.
And thanks
it's great. This is one of those things where this show is great, where it's just a great excuse to do this.
Yeah, and thank you to Ian, who's produced us for Gimme Sugar, and Warner's for letting us
everyone
have this
from Warner's here.
And it's good night from me.
And it's good night from them.
And it's good night from me. Thank you very much. Thank you.